What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the opening pair, our new combat sports show, Friday night fights, and what a event to kick this show off with. UFC 264, Poirier v McGregor 3, Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Thompson, and who better to break all this down with than Mr. Kyle Gavin?
I legitimately have sweaty hands already. We're 3 days out. I legitimately have sweaty hands. This is the biggest fight of the year so far, hands down, and I cannot wait to get stuck in.
It is definitely one of the most anticipated rematches of the year. It's one of the most anticipated cards of the year. There's a lot to break into it. It is accompanied by some great fights, some sneaky fights, some interesting kind of matchups.
Yeah.
But I think all in all, the big kind of narrative, I think, throughout this whole card, for me anyway, is legacy. I think legacy is a through line through all the fights. But obviously we have a big fight to get at the end of the show. Where do you want to start off with this?
Just want to take a moment here and just give myself a little bit deep breath. But no, as you say, yeah, legacy, and I suppose more than just what we see before our eyes is definitely on the cards tonight. But yeah, look, for once, actually, it's quite a deep card for a McGregor card. Like lately, we haven't really seen the best of cards, if we're honest, and I think that's obviously a monetary thing, but. No, we'll start at the prelims, the Fight Pass prelim, and there's an absolute banger of a fight at 125, the ladies division. It's Jennifer Maia and Jessica Ai. Like this fight, legitimately could co-main a fight night card. It's that good. Obviously, both girls have fought for the belt. They've been fed to the absolute grinder machine that is Valentina. And to be fair to Maia, you know, she gave probably Valentina her toughest assignment. Went 5 good rounds with her, kept her on her back for quite a while, and you know she's got a lot on the line. The same for Jessica Ai. You know, she's always been thereabouts, and you know it's a tough spot for her. Like, but as I said, like this is on the Fight Pass prelims. It's not even on the prelims, so just show how deep we are.
And I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but Jessica Ai fought Joanne Calderwood on the pay-per-view in January. So that just goes to show the levels of depth that this card has. It's definitely an interesting fight. They're two well-known fighters within the division. Yeah. How do you think that this is actually going to play out in real time?
It's a tough one for me because, as I said, both of them have already had their run-ins with Valentina, so I'm not sure where either of them really go in the division, if that makes sense. Still a very important fight for, you know, their career paths. I think Jessica Ai more so is closer to the door, I think, if she loses, whereas I think, as I said, Maia put in a super performance, and I just see her being too strong, too big, and kind of grinding out Jessica. Jessica is, you know, she's a decent, solid fighter, but not really outstanding. And I just see Jennifer Maia grinding her out over 3 rounds for a decision.
That's fair enough. I think it's one of the, you know, as we've kind of talked about cards before in the past, I always find that these ones are very much like they whet your appetite. They start to get you into the card, and as you build up, it should be a very entertaining fight, whether it goes 15 minutes, 1 minute, 1 round, 2 rounds, whatever it is. I do definitely take all your points on board, and I would be favoring Maia also.
Yeah, I think that's the safe bet, if we're being honest. But as you say, look, this card's absolutely stacked, and I'm just looking that up and down at the earlier during the week, and another name that jumps off the list to me is Ryan Hall and Ilia Topuria at 145. I'm not sure how clued up you are on Ryan Hall, or if anyone is really, but
he's the guy. Is he the guy that was on Artem's Ultimate Fighter season? Am I right in saying that?
Yes, he actually ended up fighting Artem in the final, and beating him. And actually, strangely enough, he somehow found his way to then go and train in SPG Ireland for quite a while. Like for the casual fan or anyone just tuning in that doesn't really know the backstory to Ryan Hall, he's an extremely unusual character, a really, really intelligent chap. And to look at him, he looks like an ordinary guy off the street, but just happens to be an absolute killer. And I think the narrative of his career is he's had it next to impossible to get a fight. And he's had a couple of wins over like BJ Penn, who really shouldn't have been in the octagon at all, to be honest.
At that stage in his career, definitely, if Hall has only come up recently.
Exactly. Like, and, as I said, it's been so difficult for him to get a fight, but he's now facing Ilia Poirier, 24-year-old undefeated, 10-0 Spanish prospect that's very, very highly rated by the UFC. And that's kind of, I suppose, the only type of guy that's going to take this opportunity against Ryan Hall. Very different clash of styles here as well. Ryan Hall is the ultimate jiu-jitsu player. I mean, he will just throw up all sorts of crazy Imanari rolls and just, you just don't know what to expect. Whereas Poirier, kind of very, very well-rounded everywhere, coming off a good finish, undefeated guy. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting fight. It's the backstory of Ryan Hall and Team McGregor / Team Faber at the time and that sort of stuff. So yeah, again, as you say, another one to whet the appetite.
And that's the thing. Everything is always just building and building and building and building and building and get you going. But we've Alfie Draper here in the chat here coming in. Can't wait for this one, lads. Yeah, I think you can gauge from Kyle Gavin's feeling and tone that he is quite revved up for this also.
Yeah.
But do you have Hall taking this, or do you have the prospect?
Yeah, like I've debated this one back and forth, and as I said, Poirier is extremely, extremely highly rated, and the UFC aren't putting him in there for no reason. But there's something about Ryan Hall. He's just one of those guys who just, as I said, throw up an unusual jiu-jitsu maneuver and get a leg lock or a knee bar or something like that, and you're tapping, and that's it. So I just edge towards Hall coming out with just an unusual submission finish.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You mentioned the word kind of unique, interesting, and I think that definitely comes to mind for a fight that I want to talk about. Nico Price, Michel Pereira.
Yes.
Michel Pereira coming off a very, very good win in December against Chaos Williams. I actually had Chaos winning that fight. Obviously, good thing that I'm not a judge in these situations.
Yeah.
But Michel is a very, very interesting fighter in terms of the angles in which he takes, his striking style. Nico Price is he's a brawler. He's just going to be
wild man.
He is just crazy. He is crazy good. I think that this is a we kind of have said in the past, this is a pure violence fight. But I think for myself, I have Pereira win it on the basis that he's maybe just that little bit more cunning in terms of how his striking ability is.
Yeah, I'd have to firmly agree with you there. As you say, both guys have very mixed records in the UFC. Both of them are just entertainers, really. Nico Price is coming off of a draw with Cowboy. It was actually then changed to a no decision because he popped for marijuana, which yesterday was changed. The UFC changed the rule. Now. Yeah. Cleared so now. But having said that, Michel Pereira had an unusual. He's on a 3-fight win streak, and I think it's the first time since 2019 in the UFC that he's on such a run. But he also had a weird no contest loss against Diego Sanchez for an illegal blow. So, it's kind of the story of both these guys' careers. But Pereira used to come into the octagon, he'd be dancing and flipping. It's like Cirque du Soleil, this guy coming in.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
But he's kind of, as you touched on, he's started to sort of realize, okay, I need to be a little bit more energy efficient here and start pushing on. And I think he has a much higher ceiling. So, yeah, like this is going to be just fun. This is going to be a fun one.
Definitely.
And I see Pereira getting a finish. I think it's just these guys are just going to come at each other, and whoever lands the big shot first. But for me, it's Pereira.
I would agree with that. I think, listen, let's move into the main card. Kicking us off, Sugar Show Sean O'Malley coming up against a unknown guy. Unfortunately, his opponent pulled out, and they've gone an interesting route for an opponent for Sean.
Yeah, they have. It's Chris Mutino. I've done a little bit of research on this guy. There's very little about.
Very little tape on the guy. Very little tape on the guy.
Like up until Wednesday when they did the press conference, he didn't even have his picture on the actual card online. So that just kind of tells you your own story, Obviously, look, Sean O'Malley is a huge up and coming name, very akin to McGregor and how he speaks about
has that style about him.
And it has those viral KOs. And the UFC are probably pinning quite a bit on him. Now, when the announcement came out that Louis Smolka had to pull out because of staph infection, basically everyone was queuing up around the block. But the big issue was making weight on a couple of days, on basically a week's notice.
Yeah.
And, O'Malley wanted to stay at 35. And to be fair to him, he was right, because he has a lot more to lose than somebody else. Say, Ricky Simone was supposed to come in, and he's a grappler style, grind them out. Big guy for 35, but he couldn't make 35, wanted to fight at 45. And the man was like, no, it's 35 or move along. And you've got to say he was dead right, because he is the name. He is the big one that has to keep building his legacy, I suppose. So, yeah, look, Chris Moutinho coming in, it's a huge opportunity for the guy. Cinderella story. He was 2-2, I think, on the regional scene, but won his last 2 fights. Absolutely nothing to lose. He trained in the same gym as Rob Font, so he's coming from a decent background as well. So
you'd have to say, if he's training with Rob Font, that he's going to be a pretty decent striker.
I think so,
that comes to mind to me, because Rob Font's very good in the feet. I know Moutinho himself, he has said in the embedded video this week that he's not looking for not performance of the fight of the night. He's not looking for knockout of the night. He's looking for fight of the night. So that's kind of that's where he's going into. Alfie, mad for a prediction. It's Friday night fight. It's not Sunday night soccer, Alfie. We'll get to
Italia all the way.
But I take it that you have the Sugar Show getting the W, yeah.
I do, and I think, as I've said, the way it's worked out, it's in a way, and it's going to sound stupid, but in a way, it's lose for O'Malley, because if he knocks
massively.
Do you know what I mean? If he knocks out in 10 seconds, well, you're supposed to do that. If it goes 3 rounds, more question mark, blah, blah, blah. So I do have O'Malley winning. I think he wins impressively. But stranger things have happened than a guy to come in. We've seen with Lando Fanatta years ago against Tony Ferguson. He dropped him a couple of times. In the end, Tony got the job done. But, he could just come in, as you say, he's trained with Rob Font, so he's obviously got decent hands. And you never know. This is why MMA is so great. But I'd be very surprised if O'Malley doesn't get it done, and get it done spectacularly.
Yeah, he has alluded to in his press conference there that he knows who he wants to call out next. It's implied that it's a person who needs to still be active. I mean, joining the dots, the obvious comment or the obvious name is Dominic Cruz.
Exactly what I was thinking as well, yeah.
So let's see what happens, but he's got to get the job done impressively enough to then kind of put a bit of weight behind the call out. But listen, let's see what happens. I think O'Malley should win, but to your point, definitely there's no winning potentially in this fight unless it's done clean and quick.
It's just do your job and move on, yeah.
Perfect. So where do you want to go on next in the card? I know we've got it. We're going to end up crescendo into a nice main event. We've got 2 more before.
Yeah, we've got 2 deep dives. But yeah, look, the next fight is Irene Aldana and Yannick Indeskai at 135 in the women's division. And, thinking about where it's been placed on the card, they're obviously putting quite a bit of weight onto this. The third fight from the end on a McGregor card is a great spot to be in. Yeah. Again, something similar to our earlier women's division. 135 is shark singular infested Amanda Nunes, and that's it. The rest are just prey. Having said that, Kundaskai is coming off an excellent win over Ketlin Vieira, who everyone was kind of seeing as the next challenger, Brazilian prospect to Amanda. She grinded her out for 3 rounds. She's ATT trained, same as Dustin Poirier. Her fiance is Thiago Santos, top ranked middleweight.
Is he?
Yeah. So it's, again, as I said, look, this division is very closed off. If we're being honest, it's just like who's going to be fed to her next. So yeah, it's a good fight, but it's just get it out of the way and get on. Do you know what I mean? To Amanda, unfortunately.
But the only thing though is that they still are in a position with a lot of eyes on them to put in a big performance to get to that stage. And listen, eventually Amanda's either going to drop or be dropped. And that's what's going to happen, I think, at this stage in her career. But it's still a great opportunity for these fighters on a big card to make a big statement performance.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Look, the division has to move. People have to. Otherwise, what's the point? And especially at 35. Like, unfortunately, Aldana's coming off of a loss to Holly Holm, who had her battles with Amanda as well, and is probably still right in there,
in and
around, but probably won't get a title shot. So if you're looking at it from a potential contender's point of view, I've seen a lot of the smart money, as they say, is going on Aldana, and I'm a little bit not confused, but I'm like, just Kunaskaya's style and the fact that she, we talked before about previous form and stuff like that coming into the fight. And I just think that Kunaskaya has that gritty, grindy style. Like, Aldana is a striker, and I just think it's set up very nicely for Kunaskaya to come in and just get it down, grind it out, not really throwing too many heavy shots or whatever, just doing enough and sweeping out a decision, for me anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that seems to be the smart way of maybe playing this fight out. As I said, I don't know much about these two, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Yeah. My history wouldn't be great on these two, but I think it's still, coming back to my previous point, it's a great opportunity to make a statement performance on a big card to prove that you're fit for purpose down the line.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, it is. It's whoever, as with every McGregor card, it's whoever pulls out the Derek Lewis moment. It's a rocket ship to the stars. And just funnily enough that I've mentioned Derek Lewis, the next fight is a heavyweight fight. I'm not sure where to start really with this. Tai Tuivasa and Greg Hardy. Like, Greg Hardy once again getting a unbelievable placing on a massive card. And look, as I said to you earlier, he brings eyes. He has got an NFL history and other domestic violence issues and stuff like that.
We'll park that. We'll park that.
Yeah, we're not going to go into that.
Let's not get into that now.
Let's not go into that.
No.
Tai Tuivasa is a bit of crack. He's knockout power. He interacts with the fans. It's Tuivasa, the fan favorite, is going to be, everyone's going to be backing him. Australian, loud, cheery, this kind of thing. Heavyweight division as well. Heavyweight MMA. It's knockout or be knocked out, and I think that's what's going to see happen here. So again, it's probably one for the casuals to just be like, yeah, go on, two big lads going at it, get you riled up and awake.
See, the thing with this is, so Greg Hardy is coming off what I would consider a bad defeat against Martin Tybura, in the sense that Tybura stupidly stayed on his feet for the first round, and everyone, including Michael Bisping, was roaring at Tybura to take it to the ground, take it to the canvas. And then once he did that, game over. And that right there, I don't see how Greg Hardy can make those adjustments in that time frame to, get away from that. Like, it's on the feet or it's nothing, potentially, for this guy. And I do have Tai as favourite, personally, myself.
Yeah, that's it. Like, to be fair to Greg Hardy, he's coming through Dana White's Contender Series, and as I said, he's a former NFL footballer or whatever, and had his, whatever in the past. And he's done very well to get to where he has. We have to say that. You know what I mean? And that's just being honest. Like, he's obviously not a fan favorite, but, he's probably ridden this thing as far as it's going to go. And I seen an interview with him today where he spoke on wanting to go into boxing.
Yeah, this jumping in and out of sport. Like, this is just... pick a lane, kid. Pick a lane.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. But Tuivasa is like, to look at him physique wise, he's not, your typical pro MMA fighter or whatever, pro boxer, whatever it is. But he has power. He has serious power, and Greg Hardy's gas tank isn't exactly the greatest. So, as I've always said with heavyweight, though, the first one to land it wins usually. And for me, I just think Tuivasa has more tools. There's a bit of niggle here as well, which is fantastic. Like, this is exactly what we need as fans. So, yeah, for me, I see Tuivasa knocking him out pretty early, I think, to be honest.
I think it probably goes. I would say it goes into the third round personally for myself, but I would have Tai as the favourite, rightly so, and hopefully getting the W. I just want to bring up a comment here. I have to back Mason Mount. I think Mason would be out of his depth here. Keep him for Sunday.
If he can do anything, he can. The kid can do anything. If anyone can do it, he could.
The Chelsea Mafia clicked in the chat this evening, but Alfie Draper bringing up. I fancy Gilbert Burns. Let's wax lyrical about these two guys. Gilbert Burns, Stephen Thompson, 2 plays 4 in the welterweight division. I'm going to kick this off. I think this is a beautifully styled fight, jiu-jitsu versus karate. I think that Gilbert Burns is, and it's a controversial opinion, I think he is very overrated in the last year. I think he's taken advantage of a couple of interesting situations, and he's gotten himself into a high position and a high ranking that I don't think he warrants as of right now. Stephen Thompson is coming off a very, very good win at Christmas over Jeff Neal. Came over a bit of adversity on the knee, blew his knee and still kind of kept going. So I have Stephen as the favourite on this. He probably won't be the bookie's favourite, but I think that there's more in Thompson, even at 37, to take this fight.
Yeah. That's an interesting take on Gilbert Burns. I'll be honest with you, I absolutely love Wonderboy Thompson. I love him. He's my second favourite fighter behind the obvious one.
Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I was actually lucky enough to meet the guy years ago after 205 in New York, and the nicest human being you would ever meet. Like, his face was a mess after Tyron Woodley had pounded it in. He was thanking us for our Irish support and so nice to meet you. And it was the first and only time in my life so far I've ever been properly starstruck. So anyway, that's just my story. That's nothing really to do with this fight. But look, it's an interesting comment on Burns. I don't agree that he's underrated. Or sorry, overrated. I don't agree that he's overrated. I think he's a very good fighter. I don't think he's a great fighter. I think there's a lot. He's a lot going for him. If anything, I actually would have thought he'd be slightly underrated. For me, I think he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Everyone keeps saying, "Oh, he's just a jiu-jitsu player." But his striking has really, really improved under Henry Hoof over the years. Yeah. And he was a little bit unlucky when he came up against Usman because Hoof would have trained both, so he stepped away from the camp, and that kind of messed with everything. The only thing as well with Henry is that, with Gilbert, is that he's a bit undersized at 170. Like, he's a natural 155er, really, that just doesn't want to cut weight, so he's fighting at 70. Whereas Thompson is a proper welterweight, and his style is just so hard to mimic in training. It's just, as you said, it's that karate side-on stance. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful to watch him in action. It's poetry in motion, and he's frozen everyone, including Tyron Woodley at the time, who was an absolute dominant champion. Fought him to a draw, fought him again, and it was razor sharp, razor tight loss. So, I'm just so excited for this fight. I'm going to be an absolute mess for the last 2 fights. I just what the hell? Like, why are my 2 favorite fighters fighting back to back? I emotionally can't take it. But
I think I just wanted to preface what I was saying about Gilbert. So where I'm getting this idea from is that obviously at the start of last year, kind of Dana would have had his plans in terms of what's potentially going to happen in the division. COVID hits, and we kind of were off, and then we're kind of slowly building back up again, and guys aren't fighting. And then Gilbert gets an opportunity to slide in to take on Woodley, who at that time was ranked 1. Woodley didn't raise a gallop at all over 25 minutes. And as we've seen in subsequent fights against Covington and to a lesser extent, Luque, doesn't have it anymore. And I think that victory over Woodley raised Gilbert to a level and a standing that he was maybe a little bit ahead of. And they got to that stage a little bit too quickly. But on the same time, you can't not take what's in front of you when an opportunity is there. And we all would do exactly what Gilbert did, but that's where I'm coming from being overrated, I guess.
No, I take that. Yeah, that's a fair point when you quantify it that way. Yeah. The only thing is that, Gilbert was on a 6-fight win streak before he fought Usman. So but I do take the point in what that you're making about. He took that template of destroying Woodley and took it as far as he could, and that's a fair comment. But that's again similar to your boy Chandler. He did what he had to do. He stepped
completely.
up, and
when the phone rings, you say yes. Always. That's all. There's only one answer, and that answer is yes.
Absolutely. And to be fair to him, as I said, look, he was fighting a former teammate in Usman, and it just didn't quite work out for him on that night. He dropped Usman in the first round, so his striking has seriously improved. And again, it's obviously nothing to do with the outcome of the fight, but these are the two of the nicest guys as well that you can meet. You know what I mean? They're both really nice guys, which is good to see. The old adage of nice guys finish last not really being a thing. Like, these guys are right at the top of the game. But just for me, I just think Wonderboy Thompson, he's 38, he looks 21. To look at him, like the shape,
he's in unbelievable shape. I just think that this is also kind of like a range and reach kind of fight, that if Gilbert gets into his face, I think Gilbert becomes the favorite. If Stephen is able to kind of like control the distance, then he's more dangerous with the karate stance and the karate style. So that's another way of looking at it, I think.
Yeah, that's a very fair point, and it plays into my next point. At the fact is a 3-round fight suits Thompson so much.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? He can just touch, move, bang, 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 and that's what it is with Wonderboy. Is it like he just can keep you, can kick you from places you don't think he can be kicked. He can punch you, and just has all these different unusual angles. Sort of the template that we're hoping to see in the main event. You know what I mean? That same idea of touch, move, tactical, just frustrates someone. We've seen it with Luke. He just absolutely just kept bang, touch, and gone. He was there and he was not. He was there and he was not. Yeah, and I just think I keep coming back to with Burns that an 8-week camp or whatever it is that he's put in, it's just not enough time to set a game plan in place for a Wonderboy Thompson. Plus, it's, if we're being honest, last chance saloon for Wonderboy as well. It's like,
agreed, 100%.
If he loses here, he's never fighting for that belt ever again. And to my mind, if that was the case, alongside Uriah Faber, although he did hold the WEC featherweight belt, the bantamweight belt, he would go down as the greatest fighter to never win
a championship.
Of any description. So for me, and I'm always going to be biased because I love Wonderboy, but I genuinely do back it up with stylistically and tactically, and like he's coached by his dad as well, who's grew up in fighting. I just see him picking off Burns. It'll be like the bull and the matador. Just bang, move. You're there, you're gone, you're there. And I just see Burns getting frustrated. He said that he did that in the Usman fight as well. He dropped him and he's seen red and went all out and burnt out completely. And that, Wonderboy touching that in the press conference, said that when I heard that, it's like, fantastic. This suits me ideally. So, I just see Wonderboy put on a clinic here, picking off Burns and taking a wide decision.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a Thompson by decision or it's a Gilbert by knockout, I think. But I think let's just take a pause quickly before we get into the main event. Let's just reset ourselves.
Yes.
Everybody watching live, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Really appreciate the comments. We just have a couple of new people here popping up. Salam from the USA. Apologies if I butchered your name. Very welcome. And then just a quick question here from Anush. Again, apologies if I have said your name incorrectly. What are our thoughts on Chimaev? I'm going to take this one quickly. Yeah. I think that Chimaev is a very talented fighter. I think he has not been tested, and I think that what they've done with Chimaev is that they have tried to fast track him and it's gone wrong. What they need to do is they need to keep building him up in one division only and kind of get him a fight in and around I would say like the 11 to kind of 14 rank to then move to maybe like a 6 to 8 to then maybe a number one contender as a kind of like a 2 and a 3 to then a title fight. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree with that. I think he's had a very, very bad dose with COVID as well. Some of the things he's putting out on social media, he practically died. He talked about retiring and everything. So, first and foremost, I think they just need to let him build back up his health and his fitness and everything. let him get a good year of training under his belt. And look, the guy is phenomenal. Let's be honest. Like, he's just been so exciting so far. I mean, like, if he can continue on the level that he was when he comes back, Jesus, anything is possible with this guy. Like, anything is possible. I do completely agree. I'd like to see him focus on one division. He's hot between welterweight and 185, and I think long term, I looking at his frame and what have you, I think I see him ending up at 185. Not for right now, but there's talk of a Nick Diaz Robbie Lawler fight.
Yeah, I see that
today. Ideally, what I would love to see is maybe Chimaev, not this year, but maybe next year, get a fight, maybe 2 fights maximum. I think even just 1 fight, get him back in there, make sure everything's right, and then fight Nick Diaz. That's just got pay-per-view written all over it. But yeah, great question. Yes, very, very exciting prospect.
Let's do it. Let's get into the main event of the evening. Poirier v. McGregor 3, the trilogy fight, the rubber match. Vegas, full crowd, live on BT box office this weekend, $29.99 plus booking fee, just so you know, ladies and gents. I think there's a lot of ways of kind of looking at this, and I think that I said at the start of the show that legacy was a word that I kept coming back to, and I think that it is a legacy defining fight for Conor in one sense of the way. In what I mean is, if Conor loses this, his legacy as a UFC fighter, to me, is the run from 178 to kind of 194 when he gets the belt, and then kind of as a bookend is the Diaz second fight. And I think that that's Conor's kind of peak career. If Conor wins on Saturday, then he kind of breathes new life into the second half or latter part of his career. If he loses, he's 1-3 at lightweight. That's what he ends up as. And then realistically, he turned into kind of like a Tony Ferguson style fighter. From a Poirier point of view, again, top line, I think that the constant activity over the last couple of years stands to him. Yes, he has taken a lot of damage, but the ability to take damage means that you have the ability to weather damage. And I think if Conor's coming back in a lot sharper and a lot kind of, for use of a better term, bouncier on the feet than he was in January, then that will stand to Dustin. But please, wax lyrical, away you go.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot there. I agree fundamentally that this is a legacy fight for Conor. He skipped out to 205, the champ thing there in his run. But look,
but I have a reason behind that, in the sense that, like this, the 194 is kind of like the end of the chapter, and then the second Diaz fight is kind of like an add-on to that, and then there's like a gap, and then the 05 is kind of done separately, and then there's a gap, and then there's the Mayweather, and that's another chapter, and then there's a gap, and then you've got Habib, and then there's a gap. Do you know, there's these kind of gaps as opposed to like a through line narrative.
He fought Diaz the first time on the 5th of March 2016. Then he fought him the second time in August 2016, and then he fought Eddie in November 2016. So it was like that run of, because he said this himself, he had that run of consecutive fights, so that got him back into that killer be killed zone. And you know, as he said as well about this fight, the big thing with the first, there's a lot of parallels to the Diaz 2 camp, that he changed things, and he's moved away. The family are not around him. You know, he's brought in Peter Queally, who I am so happy to see Peter Queally in the camp. Like, I've seen Conor's pictures of him going around a few weeks ago with black eyes and stuff, and that's exactly what he needs. Like, I feared that the first Diaz fight, the first Diaz fight and the second Dustin fight, but the first in this, you know, rematch series, he overlooked both of them, and it's very similar how, okay, right, I'm now fully tuned in, fully focused. Let's get this back. Everyone's kind of doubting him. You know, everyone's against him, and it's like, has he got it anymore? Oh, he's the rich guy. Can't really go to that dark place like Dustin can. And look, I want to really give Dustin his due. He fair and square won that first fight. No question. Do you know what I mean? I keep saying the first fight, but do you know what I mean?
The first fight of 155.
Yeah, the second one, but the first one, 170, it was so long ago that it's almost irrelevant, if we're being honest. Two very different people, two very different with different weight classes, etc., etc. But Dustin is an absolute killer. When Conor was away, Dustin went 7-1 against a murderer's row of lightweight contenders. Gaethje, Alvarez, Hooker, you fought Khabib very well.
He nearly took out Khabib.
He did. He really did. And then obviously took out Conor as well. He really changed everything. He moved up, got his head down, and came back this confident guy, didn't really care about the mind games, etc., etc., etc. Mature and physically the bigger man in this scenario. The thing is now, he came into the first fight as the underdog, as, making up the numbers. This time, he comes in as the favorite. And anyone can say what they want, McGregor's the favorite. No. In serious combat terms, Poirier is the favorite. He is. He has gotten the first knockout loss for McGregor in MMA. Dustin Poirier did that. How does he handle that? That's the big question now. All the social media is all around Dustin. All the talk is how Dustin's going to win and go on to the belt. Conor is washed up, finished, rich guy, businessman, wants to go boxing. Even you're saying it to me. I have a feeling that you are going to edge towards you being you. But
I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah. But just for me, and obviously I'm going to be biased. Look, I'm obviously going to pick Conor to win. But that's not the important thing in this scenario. The important part for me is the how, the when, the where, you know what I mean? The tactics. Yeah. I just get that sense that with Dustin, he's a little bit too talkative now. Little bit, I got this guy's number. The crowds are back. There's a less of a time of a turnaround for the weight cut. Conor's got that edge now. He has, he overlooked Dustin. He was looking at a boxing match with Manny Pacquiao. You could see it in his stance. It was just like it was boxing heavy. He has to come in, as I said, with the co-main, that bouncy style, that unpredictability, be there and be not there. If anyone wants to listen back to the post or pre-fight press conference with Jose Aldo, it's absolutely fantastic. He talks about, I will be there and I will not be there. I will be in the shadows. That's what we need from him. That's, he needs to be like that. And I just get that sense, as I said, with Peter Queally in the camp, and he shut himself away from everything and the family and the whole lot. That absolute hunger and desire to prove a point is when we see the best of him. And I just think the way things are looking, that's what we're going to get.
But is that still going to be enough? Realistically,
it may not be.
It may not be. And I think that a hungry McGregor is a dangerous McGregor.
Yeah.
However, Poirier to me is very 3Cs, cool, calm, and collective. And I think that there's a bit of shittery, excuse my language, that's happened this week. And there's shades of old Conor coming back to really try and kind of get in under the skin. But ultimately, and it worked in at 178. It did. Dustin said that he was wound up like a clock, and just kind of just let it happen. And what happened. I think that they're that bit much older. They're that bit much wiser as people. Like they're both, that I don't think that should affect Dustin. I think Dustin should just focus on Dustin, and if he's not, then that's going to be his downfall. Yeah. I think that the short turnaround of the fight, in my opinion, helps Dustin more than it helps Conor, because that key to victory, that plan is there. And if I was him, I would be reviewing the fight and trying to kind of like double guess what Conor's going to try and fix, and then counter that again. Whereas Conor's in a different space in that he has to try and fix what went wrong and then predict what could happen. Whereas I think Dustin's in a better position from preparation point of view. I do have Dustin winning the fight. I'm not going to lie.
I thought you would.
You know, I'm not surprised if Conor wins the fight. I just think that, to me, it screams Poirier.
Yeah, no. Look, as I said, I do not want to underplay Poirier. To me, I know Oliveira has won the belt, he beat Chandler, etc. He took his chance, but to me, Dustin is the champion of the division. Oliveira will not be seen as a true champion until he fights the winner of this fight.
Yeah,
you know, I think everyone would agree with me on that. As I said, Dustin, he's extremely well rounded. And I know I say that a lot about fighters, and it is MMA, but he truly is extremely well rounded. You know, his boxing has improved tenfold. His wrestling, obviously, he took McGregor down, but McGregor won that exchange. I'll come back to that. Do you know what I mean? And I think, and it's been said by a few people, and I agree with it, if Conor can pull this off, this is his greatest achievement in MMA. And I know that's a big statement, but it is. I truly believe that if Conor can pull this off and pull it out of the bag, this is his greatest moment, to have gone away through all the bullshit, excuse my language, but all that stuff that went on that no one wants to see. We won't go into it. And then turn his life around, become a family man, etc., and then suffer the defeat and come back. Like, everyone loves a comeback story. Who doesn't love a comeback story? So it just ultimately it comes down to what have Conor's camp done, what technical and mental changes have they made. I think you can see it already that Conor coming in is a lot hungrier. It's a lot more, no, I'm focused completely on MMA now. Boxing's gone out the window. There's no Phil Sutcliffe. There's no Crumlin Boxing Club in the camp this time. Not a sign of any of that. There's wrestlers in there. There's Lee Hammond in there, who's a jiu-jitsu player. You know, it's tactical. It's, as I said, Peter Queally, we've seen him in Dublin, Bellator. That man screams hard. He's the Irish Dustin Poirier, this guy. So anyone that says Conor's not training people, look up Peter Queally and come back to me. When I see Conor going with black eyes and stuff like that, I'm saying, right, okay, now we mean business. This is fantastic. This is what I wanted to see. This is the Conor we need to see. I reckon what's going to happen, and everyone's talking, and Conor himself is talking about, like, I'm going to come in there and walk straight through him. No, he's going to do the opposite. Yeah, you're going to do the opposite. Conor's going to pull him in. He's going to tip and move, pull him in. Again, the bull and the matador. Just be there and I will not be there. I will be there and I will not be there. That's what I want to see. That's what he has to do, because if he comes in and goes straight bull line for him, Dustin can out-tough anyone. Absolutely anyone. Except maybe Nate Diaz. But look, that's a different story. But yeah, I do agree that if Conor does lose this fight, yeah, his legacy is secure. There's no question about that. Anyone that says otherwise has just been facetious completely. But it would be the end of him being an elite fighter, fighting for championships.
Agreed.
And that's a fact. That's an absolute fact. You know, there's maybe like a Nate Diaz fight or
but at that stage, you know, why?
Look, there's a trilogy there to be signed off on, and you know that's probably always going to be that. I do always, and I've always said that I do think that the Diaz trilogy will be complete. But this is Conor's first trilogy as well. I'm not sure if Dustin's ever been in one before. I don't know.
So I know there's obviously the two with Alvarez come to mind, but other than that, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head, to be honest. But that's a very different thing as well, to come in for both men, to come and fight a person a third time. It's very rare in the UFC. And like, as I said, Dustin's camp, ATT and Mikey Brown, they're extremely, extremely clever. They are a great camp. It's where Amanda Nugent trains. It's absolutely high ranked training camp. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like Dustin is going to come in, and they're both going to be second guessing each other. Let's be honest.
Chicken.
So a little bit, yeah, a little bit. It's going to be. I honestly think, and Adam Coughlin said it on BT, and it was an interesting point. He reckons it's going to go 5 rounds. I don't quite agree. But I do see it going later. I do see it going I think it's going to go at least round 3.
Yeah, I have it. I have Dustin finishing it in round 3, kind of near the end of round 3, is where I'm kind of coming from. I think that there's a bit of feeling out in round 1. There's a little bit more kind of in round 2, and then Dustin starts to kind of pump it on and kind of in round 3. The one thing I would say also about Dustin is that, and we've seen it like in terms of his knockouts of like Gaethje and Alvarez, is this, and I suppose how he finished kind of Conor at the end, is this kind of beautiful kind of movement style that gets him very kind of like set on, and then he literally is just, it's all volume from that, from all angles. And I think that if Conor gets himself into a bad position and allows Poirier that kind of space and that kind of like, I don't want to, like, again, it's not the correct technical term, but this kind of like breadth to really just kind of like spread himself, that he's going to be in trouble. To the same point, Conor has always got that left hand and how to kind of set it up. It's always a dangerous weapon. Do you see this going to the ground much?
I do, actually. It's funny you mentioned that, because when you were talking about like the left hand and whatever else, and I've seen people saying things during the week about Lionel Messi, he's only a left foot or something. Like, what? How are you talking about? Like, stop. Come on. Everyone keeps saying this. It's a lazy narrative. Oh, he's only left hand. He's way more than that. I actually listened to a podcast, the Energized Show podcast. Shout out to the lads. They're probably not watching, but sure, look, hopefully they might one day. But they had his name slips my mind now, but Andrew McGahan. They had Andrew McGahan on, who worked for the Mac, like, and followed Conor around everywhere. And do you know what I mean? He's a jiu-jitsu brown belt himself. And he said that Conor's wrestling, defensive wrestling, and jiu-jitsu are extremely underrated. And they are. We've seen it against Khabib even. The worst version of Conor came in there and held his own for the most part, until he gassed, obviously.
Yeah.
But held his own with Khabib. And did the same with Dustin. Dustin got the takedown. But as soon as Conor's bum hit the canvas, he was up to the cage and won the exchanges.
Yeah.
I don't mind if Dustin shoots. Grant, do that. Fair enough. I have every faith in Conor's jiu-jitsu and defensive wrestling. And just for some crazy reason, I'm not sure if it'll happen or not, but I just have this funny feeling that Conor's going to win by submission. He's never done it in the UFC. He's done it once. He won the Cage Warriors 155 belt by submission. His only submission on his record. I don't know. I just have that feeling that Dustin's going to go shooting in for a takedown, and Conor's going to slip in a guillotine, and it's good night, Fianna. It's my kind of crazy prediction, you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy, but it just keeps slipping into my head. But no, if you're putting a gun to my head and saying make a call, I'm never going to back against Conor. Plainly and simply, I said at the top of the show, but I just think this is everything for Conor now. This is it. This is it. There's no more motivated Conor, blah, blah, blah. No, it's it. You win this or you lose this and forget about it. Go and fight the freak fights. And I just think if you put someone backed up in a corner like that, Conor McGregor comes out 10 times out of 10, and I just see him getting a finish inside 3 rounds.
Okay, so we both have ended in 3 rounds, one way or another. That's interesting. I think my final kind of sign off on this fight is that I am expecting, when it gets hot and heavy, I'm expecting a lot of volume. I think that there is going to be a bit of chicken in round 1. They're going to be sussing one another out a lot. As I say, I do have Dustin taking it in round 3, but I'm not surprised, obviously, if Conor wins it. It's a fight. There's 2 guys there. Anyone can win at any given time. Yeah. I just hope that it's one for the ages, and it should.
Yeah. I genuinely, all bias aside, I think these are 2 of the very best fighters in this division that you can get. It is skill against skill, and I just hope that both of them do themselves justice, which I have no doubt that they will. Both of them are likable. They are, and Conor, he's controversial, whatever, but he is. At the end of the day, you do love him. Do you know what I mean? He and Poirier the same. Look, Poirier is a quieter guy. He's a family man, but he's very hard to dislike. And yeah, it's great that we have this fight. Like, I'm so happy the trilogy has been signed. There was talk of all other sort of stuff going on, and no, this is what we want to see. This is what the UFC is: the very best against the very best, with everything on the line, and just go for it. So, if you're on the fence about ordering this, do not even think about missing this one. Set the alarm, get the 7-Ups in, get the Coke in, get the biscuits, get the sweets, get the beers in, get the whole lot in, sit down and just enjoy the show.
Agreed. Listen, I think that's going to wrap up the very first episode of our new show, Friday Night Fights. Again, we are aware that tonight is not Friday. It's just in advance of comments. Just want to say thank you to everybody watching live and who will watch on the replay. As always, please do like, comment, subscribe to the Open Pair channel. I'm available on Twitter and Instagram at Kicklook Media. Mr. Gavin is available on Twitter at Kyle Gavin23. Kyle, see us out with your last comments of the night.
I'm just going to go and do a little lap of the house and come back, take a cold shower, and just burn up this energy. Like, I just cannot wait. But look, as you said, look, like, subscribe, share, comment. Thanks to everyone for getting involved tonight. Really appreciate the first live show in a while. Yeah, just roll on Saturday night. Come on, Conor McGregor.
Take care, everybody. See you in the next one.